What's up, everybody? It's Carpo here. This will be kind of a Friday morning rant, I guess. Shouldn't call it a rant. A rant seems more negative. Anyway, enough about semantics. I just wanted to give a little bit of gratitude and a shout out kind of to the people out there who make this world a great place to live in. And I guess, let's see, I had so many things I wanted to talk about. I haven't made really many videos in the last few days, and I've been home. I've just been doing other things, and every time I have the idea to make a video, I kind of lose interest in it right away. Like, it's like I'm doing something else, or I don't have time, and then later I have another idea. So I never get to really convey my messages, so I'm just going to try to throw a few things in here I've been thinking about. The first one, I guess, would be the experiences that we have in life, and the more people we're exposed to, the more situations we're exposed to, the more we understand about people, and we realize how different we really are. But more importantly than how many people you know is how well do you know the people that you do know. And I had a friend who, like when we were younger, all of my friends have gone different ways, but we all still, respect each other in our own paths. I have some friends who have totally different hobbies than me, yet we can come together on certain issues. One buddy in particular who was over the other night, he's having some problems in his personal life. And we were talking about it, That was the night when we ate some mushrooms. And I really thought deeply on it that night, I thought about, here's me laying here, looking at the sky, having this amazing experience of happiness, of crying out of just love and joy, and enjoying my life, and really feeling like I'm complete. And my friend next to me who's having personal problems that he has to work on, that he may or may not be thinking about in his own world, but after discussing it with him and discussing issues, you realize that we put up this, what you may call a mask or a front as a human to talk to people. It's not always a front or hiding anything. It's a matter of, you have to put on a certain, have a certain type of behavior when you are talking to someone. You can't just go and whine about your personal problems to every single person you meet. That's what I'm saying. Nor do you want to. You just, but when you do with friends, you get to really discuss and realize how other people feel and think, and different emotions, and how, we are set up to either love. I think by default we're set up to love, but we decide whether to love a little bit or love a lot, whether we want to grow attached to other people. Sometimes we have a loss in our life, and it makes it really hard to attach to anyone else or make any, strong relationships. Losing a parent can do that, or being divorced, or having someone just leave you. Lots of different things can cause that. And I'm glad that I don't have an insecurity or a fear of my wife, say, leaving me or sleeping with someone else, that or thinking that everyone's out to get me, or having trust issues with people in general. And that's hard to do. Hard to find people that you can fully trust. And I have a few, and I think it's awesome. So, laying there, realizing that, again, is something that I've repeatedly realized, that people are just people. And this is what continues to reinforce my position that no one's going to change the world. And if you're out to change people as individuals, let me rephrase that. I'm not going to say no one's going to change the world. Individuals can change the world for the better. But no individual is going to override the reason of you. You just have to rationalize it yourself in your own mind. It was funny because I was reading a horoscope yesterday. I was really fascinated with reading this thing about Sagittarius. I am a Sagittarius, and I've always found it interesting how much the star signs relate to my life. How much I resonate of the Sagittarian type description. But there was this one line in there where it said that It said you value your opinion more than anyone else's, and that you should. Basically, it says that my own, it's telling me my own opinion about situations, my own intuition and heart feeling, is far more important than anyone else's opinion or ideas about what I should or shouldn't do. That Sagittarius have this innate knowledge of what's right and wrong, and there's no arguing or disputing that, but you're open to acceptance and change. Just all these things, these descriptions, I thought, it's really good to be able to look at something and say, I guess, is this a good or a bad thing? Is this a good or a bad trait to have? My bullheadedness, my stubbornness, it's something that everybody in my family has had. My father died when I was a teenager, so I never really got to know him, but my mom's stubborn as hell, my brother's stubborn as hell, and I'm stubborn as hell. It's just in our blood. And we're all fairly intelligent people, and we all have strong ideals about what we think, is good and bad and right and wrong. But in particular, I tend to have a certain, I have an attachment to what's right. I have an attachment, not an attachment, but it's a very big concern to me to express the truth in its raw form, however I see it. And not to prove anything and not to argue with people. It's a matter of presenting how I see it, and saying, hey, if you don't agree, then show me why, and then I can at least have a different opinion on it. Because I'm never out to prove anything. I have never been out to be right. I never seek to be right or to prove anything, but so often I end up finding the right answer just by seeking it and being honest with myself. And I'll admit I've made lots of mistakes in the past. I've gone down certain paths that I become obsessed about a particular idea or theory or whatnot. This is important. This has taught me. This is the most important lesson I've learned, is going down those paths. For example, a person who, let's say, who was disillusioned and was forced into a religion is much more likely, if they break away from that, to see the damage that it can cause because they've experienced it. In the same way, the more you learn about life, the more you learn about history, the more you can figure that the future is going to go a certain direction. And that direction is not determined by it's not determined by the individual, it's determined by the will of the masses. So in other words, if one person's screaming everyone else is sheep, it doesn't matter, because the sheep dominate, the sheep always end up ruling. That's just how it works. Now, I'm not talking about literal ruling classes, I'm not talking about classes here. I'm just saying whatever the masses do is either caused by ignorance, or that's the way that nature wants it, in other words. So instead of fighting the system, and telling other people what they should be doing, and saying this is how you should be living your life, and this is how the world will be better, we realize that anytime you think that people should be a certain way, sit down and think about it and ask yourself, if everyone acted this way, how would the world be? For example, if everyone was a monk, even though a person may think being a monk is the greatest thing, if everyone was a monk, what would happen? The human race would die. We'd have to start allowing monks to reproduce, but raising a child means you take time away from your spiritual practices. What we need is people being monks and having intense spiritual practices to share with those of us who are raising families, so those families can become the new monks. You see, we work as a team. There is no one size fits all. There is no, this is what you should be doing and this is what I should be doing. As soon as we stop pointing the finger at other people and start pointing it at ourselves, is when we realize, these are my flaws and I can own this. Recently I went through kind of a phase where I started questioning my own flaws. Like, for example, one of them, justifying smoking. I didn't smoke very often, but it was enough to bother me. So I switched to vaping. I knew I could do it. Then I found this whole vape culture of people who are obsessed with it, and that's not my thing. But the other night when I was shrooming, I was sitting here looking at this thing thinking, it's a digital cigarette, And now people are calling regular cigarettes analog cigarettes. But the way people's minds seem to be shifting over as a collective consciousness towards a healthier way of being, and people are going to say, well, if I am going to smoke, I might as well smoke these or this, and if I am going to smoke cannabis, well, I would like to lessen the effects on my body and my, any harm it may cause, not using pesticides. People are conscious. People want to be healthy and happy, because we know that's what's important. It's not a matter of longevity, and that's the key. It's not about making a longer life. It's about making a better life for everyone. The more people that are happy, the more contagious that is, and the more happy it is for everyone else. Everyone wants to be happy. I've been sitting here watching these guys. They're pretty cool little creatures. I guess I'll just finish the video with this thing. You know, I've really tried to be a fair person in my life and be honest. But I find myself to finish up on that, being much too brutally honest. And sometimes you have to be tactful in, what you're willing to tell people, what you're willing to tell yourself. I think that we have to be we have to be very honest with individuals and with ourselves, but we can't. It's one of the things that I was reading. I forgot to mention when I was reading this thing about the Sagittarius. It was talking about how, although you love life and you enjoy every hobby and you do all kinds of crazy fun things and everything's positive to you, totally positive thinker, you tend to be a little overbearing and not quite egotistical, but more of just very intense in the way that I push things forward. And I know I can be overbearing. It's one of my faults, and I started thinking, is it a fault, or is it something I should benefit from? In other words, people in the past who talk a lot, well, they become speakers. People who like to work hard, well, they become laborers. People who have certain passions, they delve into those passions, and that's what they do. And one of my passions is following my heart and speaking the truth, and sometimes that's painful to individuals and to the collective. So I'm learning to be more tactful and trying to be more fair with myself as well as with others. That also means treating myself with as much respect as I treat the world, and vice versa, and that's a really hard thing to balance. Something I work on daily. So I guess I'll finish this up now. It has been a rant, so at least, I've gotten hopefully some kind of a point across. It's all about balance. It's all about that. Finding what works for you, and when other people want to point the finger, just blow them off. But if you need their help, if you're the kind of person who needs direction, and a lot of personalities need direction, don't be afraid to be a follower if that's what works for you. And that's what I wanted to really convey, I guess you could use the bees as an example. They have workers. They have a hive mentality. Sure, there's soldiers, there's workers. Some of them just spend their whole time by the queen, and they serve their purpose and they do their thing and they're happy to do it. As humans, we have a consciousness and an awareness that makes us think that we should have more and that we should all be leaders there, that we should all have some major say in everything. And some people just don't want to. They don't want to make waves. So you can't expect everyone to join forces with you if you are for some cause or feel some certain way about something. And that's really a main point that I wanted to convey there. If you want to save the whales and another person wants to kill the whales, well, maybe you can find some common ground. Everyone has a cause.